Been seeing some hot takes on Twitter and in the broader WoW community, and I wanted to bring back a series for a little bit where I take some of the community topics and kind of talk about them and kind of give my takes on some of the stuff that we've been seeing inside the community. And why not take a chance to talk about add-ons in World of Warcraft? And this one started with this tweet by Roger Brown. And this is a sentiment that I think is parroted a lot. I've seen it by like Vin Rookie and a bunch of other PvPers as well. And what he states is, hot take: at the launch of Midnight, whenever you zone into an instance, all add-ons get disabled, similar to how nameplates currently change. In outside world, add-ons would still work normally. In the meantime, Blizzard should improve the base UI. So that was the initial tweet. And then it had a follow-up tweet. In the follow-up tweet, Roger Brown goes, my last tweet got a lot of people riled up. He explicitly stated that Blizzard should improve the base UI. That's why he didn't ask for the change immediately, as he agrees that the current base UI is way too lacking. I don't think it's hard for Blizzard to do. See what add-ons mostly people will use, such as damage meters and buff, debuff tracking, nameplates, unit frames, and make it baseline. The change I suggested would make the game way more accessible to new players, no more wipes due to wrong, weak, or outdated add-on, way better FPS, force Blizzard to improve base UI, as it currently deals with add-ons being so prevalent, and the incentive actually ends up getting diminished, because then everybody's effectively going to be playing on an even playing field, I guess is the reason that this would be this way. Also, easier to share UIs with friends, plus keep your UI whenever you're changing your PC or whatever without needing to copy it over. Yeah, because you'd then have to, because how it currently stands, you have to copy your interface folder and your WTF, and this could make it just easier to share it. And then Blizzard can also design bosses and dungeons without having to worry about add-ons. It might be a rough ride at the start, but I'm pretty sure they'll quickly realize that what works and what doesn't with some PTR testing and a bit of trial and error. Okay, so let's kind of talk about this first. So I think that the correction that he posted here makes a lot of sense in terms of the cohesive thought on why add-ons are pretty disruptive for gameplay experience. I think the biggest issue that I have with add-ons personally is this first one: make the game way more accessible to new players. I remember whenever I first started the game, I would log in and I remember people started talking to me about add-ons, and I was like, why do I need to download add-ons? Why do I need to have this third-party program to tell me things that aren't native in the game? Like, well, why is it this way? Why do I need add-ons for my UI? Why do I need add-ons for this and that? And I think that this is probably the biggest thing. But just frankly, not that many new players are actually jumping into World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is a very old game, just in general. Players aren't necessarily going to be jumping into it. And it's in a situation where the price model for how you play the game kind of boxes out people from trying the game. Having a month-to-month resub model on top of just base box cost makes it to where new players don't necessarily jump in the game. Now, I think this is personally a pretty bad thing. I would love that the game be more accessible to new players, but I think that there's things that I would love to see tackled prior to the UI being updated. So just in general, my thoughts on this are, I actually kind of like add-ons, and I actually don't think that Blizzard should do this, and I don't think that Blizzard will do this, and I think that those are kind of two separate things. The reason I actually don't think that Blizzard should do this is I actually kind of like the customization options of add-ons on the game. And I like the ability to really have full customization options on my UI. I think that those are like the best things and the best parts of the game, is having the ability to be able to access information with all the buff and debuff tracking that you want, set up customized nameplates in a way that you find functional for what you're looking to do, and in creating, this UI that really works for how you want to play the game. And I think it works really well for players of wide varying disciplines inside the game. Whether you're just leveling and you want a UI that's way more optimized for leveling, whether it be having leveling add-ons that tell you where to go and what the next quest is, or whether it be pet battles that have pet battle helpers that give you maybe suggestions for what pet battle you should be typing in, or obviously the PvE ones that I'm the most accustomed to, which have boss mods that have timers, whether it have weak auras that tell you timers of things that are coming up, whether it be just generic like spell ICDs on abilities, or big air horn sounds for effects that are casting. I think that in general, the customization options of add-ons and weak auras in particular have, in my opinion, actually increased my enjoyment of the game. And I do think that it makes it a little bit less accessible, because it takes a while to actually get your character to a point where your UI is optimized, especially if you're trying to play the game in an optimal manner. But when you make it to that point, I think that the add-on the ability to actually create your own custom add-on is, in my opinion, a pretty positive one. Now, what I will say is the reason that Blizzard won't do this is because why would they pay people on their development team to do something that the community largely does for free? And then Blizzard will also have the burden of like troubleshooting and bug fixing it on patch to patch. Think about every single time that Blizzard updates something in their game and your LVUI bricks and you lose 100 FPS, or your weak auras brick and you lose 100 FPS. Think about if Blizzard was the team that then had to tackle that. Say they pushed the game live and then everything was broken and they were the people that had to actually come through and fix that. They probably wouldn't actually be able to fix that quickly, which means they would actually have to clamp down on what you would actually be able to see. That in conjunction with the fact that this is actually a pretty big undertaking for Blizzard. This is maybe something bigger than even like player housing. For them to actually undertake, because they are basically trying to completely take away weak auras, take away just UI add-ons, take away basically everything in nameplates and stuff like that, things that have been built up over the past 25-ish years, and bake it into the base game. While I think it would be great if they could, I just don't see the path forward for Blizzard to be looking to do that just as a company. In addition to that, I think that some of the things that people have been complaining about, just in general, could actually be clamped down on by restricting more API calls. I think if Blizzard was actually a little bit more diligent about stopping what can and can't be called by API calls, that can actually help a lot. We see private auras, and when players, sometimes they'll go around private auras, and that's obviously, I think that's a pretty stupid thing. But you see players go around private auras fairly often. But I think the private auras, if Blizzard just restricts what actually can be API called even further, I think that would actually be a fairly solid way of trying to do this. And I think that, for example, say Blizzard slowed down the game a lot. And I think that one of the reasons that add-ons have kind of become this is because the game is actually so fast-paced. And personally, I actually like that the game is this fast. I know that sometimes there's some things that I think aren't very good for the game. I think that the lack of counterplay in a lot of areas can be a bit suspect at time. But I do think that the pace of the game and like how fast combat feels in the modern version of retail actually feels pretty good. And Blizzard would actually have to slow down the game a lot, or not a lot, but actually just a little bit. And by reducing API calls for, say you couldn't track kicks on your party, that would remove just some of the information that you gained. But then that they have a lot less interrupts that you actually have to do, then it wouldn't need you to actually be able to track players' interrupts. And that would obviously be pretty solid. And that's a way of making it work. I think that the one that, to me, is the craziest one is like the nameplate cooldown weak aura, or Bigwigs has it natively now. I think that one for Mythic Plus is one of the strongest and most powerful add-ons, and I think that it is, how I would describe it, it is mandatory for the current state of Mythic Plus, because there's a lot of invisible casts that don't have really good wind-up time and don't have great telegraphing. But say Blizzard slowed that down. Say Blizzard gave those better telegraphing, and they removed the API call to put it on that nameplate. I think that could actually help in a way that makes add-ons feel a lot less required, because I think that whenever add-ons become a lot more required, I think that you see players start to complain. I do think that there are some other things here. No more wipes due to wrong weak or outdated add-on. Obviously, troubleshooting add-ons in Raid is probably always going to be a thing if add-ons have to exist. But this is just a byproduct of how complicated weak auras and add-ons have actually gotten. Way better FPS. I think that Blizzard actually is also partially at fault for some of the reasons that their FPS is so bad, and so I don't think that this is actually a super big solve for this. Forces Blizzard to improve the base UI. Dude, if you start listing things that you would want Blizzard to improve in the base UI, I mean, you can probably start typing this down in the comment section. It's like, what? The nameplates have to improve massively. Party frames, buff and debuff tracking, cooldown tracking in a better way, more customization options for pretty much all my buff and debuff tracking, pretty much everything. I need like a lot more customization options to be able to get something that's even comparable to what I have on retail right now. And I think that the game is just in a state where maybe they could have done this back in vanilla, and I watched people play hardcore with basically no add-ons, but like it was a much slower game, and so I don't think that we can necessarily go back. Just in general, though, I actually don't think that I want Blizzard to go back and make it to where people don't play with add-ons. I actually kind of prefer the state of the game and how it is right now. I actually think this is fairly solid. I do think that there are obviously problems, but I don't think that, you know, it's just like a one-size-fits-all solution. I mean, I've seen PvPers complain that add-ons are ruining the game because they would rather play PvP without add-ons altogether. But I think that if Blizzard actually went in and was a bit more strict with the API calls, I think that would actually solve some of the problems that some of these people are having. In the end, though, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down in the comment section below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.